Hey, Doug. Devin mentioned he spoke to Nabby, and I know you said a couple days ago that Nabby was going to play a role in whichever goaltender you acquire. What's the relationship with those two, and what gives both Nabby and you, I guess, the confidence that Devin can bounce back here next season?
Yeah, I think Devin and Nabby have a very good relationship, and it's not just as goalies. I think it's a personal relationship. Adam Francilia, who also does a lot of work with the goaltenders in the summers, has done a lot of work with Devin also. So I think they're familiar with not only how he's played and where his game is. I mean, he's a three-time All-Star, so he's played at a high level. But I think they were also very up to speed with the health issues that he had to deal with within his family last year. So I think there was a lot of empathy and understanding, again, beyond just as a hockey player, but the importance of health and family. So yes, I relied on a lot of them for their input, as Devin as a goalie and as a player, but also as a person.
Greg Wyshynski.
Thanks a lot. Hey, Doug.
Okay.
With Devin being on with only having one more year on his deal, immediately the Seattle expansion draft comes to mind as a potential influencer. Was that any influence in looking for a goalie with that kind of term? And in a broader perspective, how much influence do you think the expansion draft's going to have on what we see over the next 2 weeks in the NHL?
Well, I think different teams in different situations on how they handle the expansion draft. For us, it was not a factor in this. We were looking for a real quality goaltender who could come in and give us a quality tandem because we think of the uniqueness of this upcoming year, potentially compressed schedule, etc. But we also know that Devin's, he's a big, strong, healthy guy that unfortunately had to deal with some personal issues last season. Highly motivated. We've seen him a lot in the West. So ours was just building a goaltending tandem that we think fits for what the needs are going forward. We've got some good goalies coming underneath, and Josef Kornar and Melnichuk also. But we wanted our group to be competitive with this unique schedule upcoming, I think.
Sheng Peng.
Hey, Doug. Can you talk specifically about what Evgeny Nabokov likes about Devin Dubnyk's game and how he'll fit into what Bob wants to do defensively?
Well, I mean, I'm glad you said the second part. We have to tighten up as a team defensively and play the right way to give our whoever's in nets the chance to succeed. But Devin's record, if you take a look at it, the last 5 or 6 years, if anything, maybe he played too many games, much like Martin Jones, and they played a lot of hockey. I think a couple of years ago, Devin played 67 games, but he is a big, strong guy. He's healthy. He's a three-time All-Star. We've seen what he's capable of. There's a lot of times where, unfortunately, guys get off track and have a year a little bit below their standards. Usually it's because of injury or things like that. In this case, it was something that was out of his control. I admire the way that he and his wife, Janet, handled it. And he's very caring about his family and his wife to make sure that she was in a wonderful place. And having talked to her the other day, I know they're both really excited to come join this organization.
Kevin McGran.
Hey, Doug, thanks for doing this. Appreciate it. You were just talking about the uniqueness of this season that's upcoming. How do you think the flat cap, the pandemic, the questions about what revenues are going to be like is going to affect the free agent market and player movement over the next little while? Do you see like bargain basement deals? Do you see like backloaded deals, maybe more trades than free agents? Like, where do you think it's going because of this unique year we're having?
I think, I don't think anybody truly knows. I mean, as you go through this is not anything we can compare, anything we've ever gone through before. Depending where the team, the phase that they're in, I think the good players are all still going to do very well. Historically, there's usually when a cap stays flat or something like this, there is a squeeze somewhere in the system. We just take a look at our position where we're at. We know we've got some very good players. We've got some younger players coming. We've got some younger veterans that need to get to the next level. We were looking at a goalie situation that we could get a guy that has played at a high level in this league, come in, and we acquired him at a fair price. We didn't want to use any picks from this year because we feel this is a very strong draft, and that was part of the reason the deal probably took a little more time, as we wanted to push the picks out a few more years. But I think each team has to look at their situation, where they're at. and make their determinations on how they're going to go forward with a complete unknown. I don't think anybody has a crystal ball how next season will pan out. We know where we're at and things we were looking for, so we made the decisions we did on both Devin and Ryan.
You might give me the same answer for this follow-up question, but what about player development? We don't know what's going to happen with the minor leagues, the junior leagues. They look like they're playing in Europe. Is there going to be like a developmental gap for some of these players this year? And what do you do to address that?
See, that's the biggest unknown. You take a look at it, if we, depending on when we start, it's going to be a long period of time before we ramp back up again. And some people will say, well, that's advantageous to younger players. Some people will say it gives older players a little bit more time to rest and get healthy. I think what you need to have is players that are so prepared when it does start. The hockey rat, the love of the game mentality, where you're training without the unknown of the schedule when you're going to start. And that's how we look at it. It's getting players that are willing to put the work in, ready to go when they start. But it is on the developmental side. It's especially for the teams that didn't get to play in the play-in round or have a training camp. The lack of development time for some of your players is something that we hope is remedied with a little extra time before the season starts next year.
Thanks.
Kevin Kurz.
Yeah, Doug, why was this two separate deals? Is my first question. And second question is it fair to say Ryan will get a bigger opportunity here with San Jose than maybe he's had so far in his career?
Two separate deals because they were two separate conversations. They were separate going forward when I was talking to Billy Guerin. And then the other thing that I've mentioned, I did not want to give up any picks in this year's draft. So we were looking at different scenarios where something in 22 or something in 21, but I just wanted to avoid the ability to replenish with what we think are very valuable picks this year. So that was one of the reasons. What was the second question, Kevin?
Just, Ryan has obviously maybe not had as much of an opportunity in his previous stops as it looks like he might get here, just based on your depth chart and on the potentially on the right side. Is that fair to say that he might get more of a chance here than he's had so far in other teams?
Well, I think he will, but I think he's really honest about himself too. He knows that he can score goals in this league. He's got a great shot. He scored 14 even strength goals with limited ice time last year. But I think what he's appreciated is learning how to play the game in all areas. We're very familiar with him in his draft year. Timmy Burke knew him extremely well. He used to kill penalties. He did everything at Harvard. He's 24 years of age. I think it's the opportunity now that if you even ask him, when I talked to him this morning, he wants to be a player that plays in all situations in all three zones. He certainly has the aptitude and skill set. I think there's a lot of players sometimes at that age group, they kind of get boxed out a little bit and there's a make or break at time. I think he truly understands that he's going to get an opportunity. He can play in many different positions. He can play up and down in your lineup. And I also think he's going to really reap the benefits of having John Madden, who's a detail guy, and Mike Ricci. So I think his best hockey is certainly ahead of him. He's honest about himself. He loves the game of hockey. And he's talking to him this morning. You just see the excitement. But he's going to have to earn it. You're not going to be given ice time or on power plays or certain situations without paying your dues.
Curtis Pashalka.
Hey, Doug. It seems like a pretty big part of the Dubnyk deal was getting Minnesota to retain half the salary. How does that all kind of work as far as negotiations with Bill? How important is that for you to give you some flexibility going forward, going to free agency?
Well, I think it's always a factor what the acquisition cost is. And as I'll say, the one thing we wanted to do is identify the type of goalie that we wanted. He fit all those boxes. Yes, he had a year that was not one of his best years, but there's certainly obvious reasons why. If there'd been an injury involved or personal injury to him, that would maybe have affected our impact. But we think with the price that we paid, the pick being out 2 years from now, and knowing this player, so you throw all those factors into it. I think that's where we ended up. We researched, we did a lot of talking and looking to all the other guys that were available, but we think at 34, being a year away from being an all-star, having gone what he went through, what the acquisition cost was, that it ended up being a very good fit for us. And knowing that he'll be very complementary in a tandem situation where they'll both battle for the net and be team first guys.
And do you feel you have enough flexibility now to add a potentially another top six forward in free agency at all, or through a trade?
Well, we're looking at everything. You always do. It's, we've got a bunch of younger guys and younger veterans that we think are probably more prepared than they were a year ago to step into some of the roles that they can fill. We'll explore whether you use the cap space now, you take a look and do it closer when the season starts or in season. All those options are available. But the one thing we didn't want to do was not have the picks, especially the top 3 picks for use in the next couple of days. That was important for us to keep those.
Shane Payne.
Doug, did you talk to Martin Jones at all before this trade? Sort of about the idea that he might be giving up the net a bit more next year than he might be used to?
I've talked to Martin a lot this summer, and he's been working his butt off up in Kelowna. He's been training extremely hard. You know that you're going to have 2 goalies. You know that you're going to have potentially a compressed schedule. All he does is he goes and takes care of his own business. And the work that he and Nabby did last year, the last part of the year, was a great example of his professionalism. Martin Jones has played some really good hockey for this franchise. And again, maybe he played too many games. That's you can't really change that. But I know he and Nabby have an outstanding relationship. The relationship Nabby has with Devin and Jonesy, I think, is going to be very important going forward.
Kevin Kurz.
Yeah, Doug, you've said many times that you expect the core guys in this team to come and bounce back next season. Is it fair to say right now that you expect all of these core guys back next season, or are you leaving open the possibility that there could be future moves between now and whenever camp starts?
Well, this business, you never know. You always have your phone on, you're always listening. But I take a look at our guys. Our best players have to be our best players, because that sets the tone for your team, and not only how you play, and you've got to have a certain skill set in this league to compete, but just how you play the game. And I think last year we got off to a poor start. That's on us. We played well in November, and then unfortunately we had to make a coaching change, and Bob came in and did a good job with a tough hand being dealt to him, not having his own staff, and then having arguably 3 of your best players, 2 of your top centermen, and Tomash and Logan and Eric, go down. That happens. You can't control that. What I do know is that these guys are all excited about coming back. They're putting the work in. Several of them are in town already. I like the bones of our team. I do. You have to have a blend. You have to have some younger guys, especially in this situation with having not played as long as it's potential that we might have a gap and pause for. We're going to need that also. And then you need a couple of quality veterans that can go up and down in the lineup too. So I wish our training camp was today. And I think our players wish the same thing. A lot of them have a sour taste in their mouth. They know they left some game on the table last year. I believe in our players. I believe that they truly can't wait to get going, and maybe they'll have a chip on their shoulder. They'll have a little underdog attitude, because a lot of this game is about attitude, bringing juice and energy, rallying around each other. And I think our group has shown they've done that in the past, and look forward to getting back at it.